Hearing this intro as a kid was the most hype song I could hear on the TV. Well, unless you're talking about Dragon Ball Z's intro, but that's a topic for another video. When 4Kids premiered its dub adaptation to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, it changed the lives of many kids around the world and inspired all of us to become Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists and buy as many Yu-Gi-Oh! Packs as my mom would be generous enough to buy me. We might have had the rules confused because for time constraints, the TV show had to change things like life points and the correct way to summon monsters. We all still had a blast doing it, even if it was wrong. Now, what made Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Season 1 so amazing and influential? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, so let's get into it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters premiered in the US September 29th, 2001, and it was an instant hit amongst kids across the country. It was also a major hit in Japan. The show was based on a manga created by Kazuki Takahashi in 1996. Now, the premise of the show was a kid named Yugi Moto who was given an ancient artifact called a Millennium Puzzle by his grandfather. Now, this puzzle contains the spirit of an ancient Egyptian king named Yami. Now, these two characters together are often referred to as Yami Yugi. Now, while Yugi possesses the puzzle, Yami can take control of Yugi's body and win duels for him. Majority of the duels in this series are actually Yami in control while Yugi is in the back seat, which makes for an interesting dynamic. Now, since majority of the people watching this video will already know what happened in the series, we're going to give it a short breakdown of the plot for the Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. So the main antagonist of Season 1 is actually a character called Maximilian Pegasus. He's the owner of the Duel Monsters card game, and he also owns Industrial Illusions. He is also obsessed with owning all of the Millennium items. He himself owns an item called a Millennium Eye, which has many powers, but also has the ability to see the opponent's hand. So he hears about Yugi because Yugi just defeated Kaiba, which we'll discuss later and talk about Kaiba later. And he also realizes that Yugi owns the Millennium Puzzle. So Pegasus creates a tournament called Duelist Kingdom and invites Yugi via a tape. Yugi puts this tape in, and Pegasus basically tricks Yugi into a duel. And what's at stake is Yugi's grandfather's soul. So unfortunately for Yugi, he has to beat Pegasus, and he has to beat him within a time limit. Now, Yugi was about to attack for game and time went up, so unfortunately, Yugi lost his grandfather's soul and has no choice but to go to Duelist Kingdom, which starts up basically the whole series. And that's pretty much like the main plot of the show. I wanted to give a short breakdown just because a lot of the people already know what happened to it, and this isn't nearly what everything that happened within the first season. But what I really want to talk about, let's talk about iconic characters. One of the most iconic and probably the most iconic to me is Seto Kaiba. Kaiba is the main plot of the first episode as he hears Yugi's grandfather is in possession of a rare card that he's been searching for years called the Blue Eyes White Dragon. A card in which he already owns 3 of, but just wants all the copies that exist. So after pretty much offering his entire collection to Yugi's grandfather and his grandfather saying no, Kaiba tricks Yugi's grandfather, grabs Blue Eyes White Dragon, and rips it in half. Now, this caused Kaiba and Yugi to have beef. This beef caused them to duel, and Yugi decides to summon Exodia the Forbidden One, a monster that can only be summoned if you control all 5 pieces of this card, which is very hard and near impossible to do with the amount of cards they had in their deck. It's also where this iconic scene comes from. Exodia, obliterate! This made everyone hyped to watch more. Seto Kaiba's development during Season 1 was quite interesting. It started out with him being a complete selfish person, to still being selfish, but learning that he actually has a heart and purpose in life. He also had beef with Pegasus because Pegasus was trying to take over Kaiba Corporation, which Kaiba is the owner of, which is a corporation that Pegasus wanted. And while doing that, Pegasus kidnapped Kaiba's brother and took his soul. So this caused Kaiba to have to go ahead and play in the Duelist Kingdom tournament in order to get his brother's soul back. So him and Yugi were both fighting for a very similar purpose in that tournament. Now, the reason people liked Kaiba so much is because of his attitude and confidence. As a kid, he was someone you wanted to be like when you got older. Kaiba is liked so much. In order to get an original mint printing of his main monster, Blue Eyes White Dragon, today you would have to pay thousands of dollars. Now that's insane to me. Another iconic character is Joey Wheeler. Joey is Yugi's friend who happens to always be in Yugi's shadow. At first he isn't the best or the smartest duelist, but by the end of season 1, he becomes somewhat of a respected duelist and earns a lot of credibility. He joined the Duelist Kingdom tournament in order to get enough money to pay for his sister's eye surgery. Now, Joey's main monster is Red Eyes Black Dragon, which is an iconic monster in itself. Joey actually possesses quite a few iconic cards, such as Time Wizard and Baby Dragon. The reason people liked Joey so much was how funny he was and his charisma. Joey would never back down from a fight and always had Yugi's back, like a true best friend. This dude risked his life to save Yugi's Exodia pieces that Weevil threw into the ocean during the cruise to Duelist Kingdom. We won't talk about Weevil in this video because I just don't like him at all. Now, Yugi's main monster was a Dark Magician, which in my opinion is tied to Blue Eyes as the most popular monsters in the series. Yugi also possesses other iconic cards such as the Exodia pieces and Gaia the Fierce Knight, and Summon Skull. Now, as far as the villain in the series, Pegasus, since he was the creator of the card game, he had cards that no one else had. He created his own versions of cards and added a twist called Toons. Now, Toon monsters are super iconic. I remember being a kid and always asking kids if they would trade me their Toon cards. Now, his main boss card was Relinquished, which is a very hard card to get over, but Yugi manages to defeat it anyway. Now, I just wanted to list the absolute most iconic characters. There's definitely a bunch of other popular characters like My Valentine, Rex Raptor, and Yugi's other close friends like Tristan, but we just don't have the time to go over them today. But they were definitely great additions to the series and helped push the plot forward. Now, to close the video, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters was amazing and fun to watch. As kids, even though they broke the rules of the actual card game, it still felt like an amazing show. It caused me and millions of kids across the world to fall in love with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, to trade and battle each other, and to have fun, something other than video games. This is our first time actually getting into card games and enjoying playing each other. It made us forget about video games and stuff like that, honestly. And it made us all fall in love with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. And to this day, thousands still play the game competitively, including me. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, inspiring us to send our opponents to the Shadow Realm. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will always have a special place in my heart, and many others. And this is why Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Season 1 was an amazing series. Well, I hope you guys liked and enjoyed the video. I'm definitely going to be doing more content like this here in the very near future. Now, my name is Zoom,